My name is David, and if you had told me a year ago that buying an old house would lead me down a path of historical mysteries and personal revelations, I would have laughed. But here I am, a film archivist by profession, finding myself living a story that feels like it could belong on one of the dusty reels I so often handle. The house came to me as a necessity rather than a choice. My burgeoning collection of vintage films needed a place large, secluded, and with the kind of atmosphere that only old architecture could offer. This house, with its creaking floorboards, expansive attic, and labyrinthine corridors, fit the bill perfectly. It was like stepping back in time, surrounded by the scent of aged wood and the faint echo of histories untold. On my first day moving in, as I hauled boxes of celluloid treasures into the attic, I stumbled upon something unexpected. Hidden beneath the floorboards, in a space that seemed untouched by time, was a small wooden chest. It was locked, but worn by years of neglect, the lock gave way with little resistance. Inside, I found a collection of yellowed newspapers, their edges brittle and curled. The topmost paper, dated back to over a century ago, featured a headline that sent a chill down my spine. Unsolved tragedy strikes local family. Underneath were several more papers, each detailing various events of the house, events that spoke of loss and mystery. What struck me the most was not just the age of these articles, but the realization that my new home was steeped in a somber history, a silent witness to events that had once captivated the front pages of local dailies. It was in this moment, surrounded by remnants of the past, that I felt a stirring of curiosity that would soon become an obsession. As night fell and the house began to settle with eerie creaks, I sat amidst my films and the newly discovered documents, feeling both a historian and a detective. Little did I know, the shadows in the film reels and the whispers of the house were about to intertwine, leading me on a journey that would unearth truths buried by time and shadows. Fueled by the discovery of those haunting newspaper clippings, my evenings soon transformed into nights spent poring over every piece of information I could unearth about my new home. The musty smell of old paper became a constant companion as I delved into public records, local library archives, and online databases, hungry for any scrap of history connected to the house. Each document seemed to peel back a layer of the past, revealing more about the people who had walked these halls. The names and dates began to form a narrative, not just of a building, but of lives intertwined with joy and tragedy. I learned about the original owner, a wealthy industrialist known for his philanthropy yet marred by personal losses that seemed to echo through the ages. In my quest, I stumbled upon a local historian, Mrs. Weaver, who specialized in the town's Victorian era. Over cups of strong tea in her cluttered study, she painted pictures of lavish parties once held in my living room, now so quiet and still. She spoke of the house's reputation in the community, once a beacon of prosperity, later shrouded in whispers of misfortune. My intrigue deepened as I sifted through property deeds, old letters, and faded photographs that revealed the shifting faces of the house. Each owner had left their mark. Renovations, additions, even changes in the landscape. Yet, the narrative of those unsolved tragedies remained elusive, the details murky and often contradictory. The more I learned, the more the house seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for me to piece together its hidden truths. My initial excitement slowly mingled with a creeping unease as the line between past and present blurred, and the walls around me seemed to whisper secrets just beyond my grasp. As my investigation into the house's past deepened, a particular set of articles began to stand out starkly among the others. These were not just any newspaper clippings, they chronicled a series of gruesome, unsolved murders that had occurred right within these walls over a century ago. The discovery sent a cold shiver down my spine, each article adding weight to the eerie atmosphere that now seemed to permeate every corner of the house. One faded headline proclaimed, "Mystery enshrouds local mansion following tragic deaths," detailing how the once lively home had turned into a tableau of unexplained tragedies. The articles recounted various accounts of the incidents, each victim found under circumstances that defied simple explanation, leaving the community and law enforcement baffled. Another clipping, brittle and slightly torn, featured interviews with townsfolk from that era, their words filled with a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. They spoke of the house as if it were cursed, a place touched by a dark streak of fate. This sentiment seemed to have persisted through generations, as I noted from their wary tones and sidelong glances, captured in the black and white photographs accompanying the articles. Each story I read was a mosaic of details and speculation, weaving a tapestry of mystery that no one had been able to unravel. The lack of closure in these cases was palpable, the details murky, but the impact of these events clearly significant. This historical narrative painted a picture of my new home not just as a structure of bricks and wood, but as a silent keeper of unresolved secrets, each room perhaps holding echoes of the past that were yet to be fully understood. In my pursuit of understanding, I uncovered something unexpected amid the aging film canisters in the archive. These were not just any reels, they depicted my house in a time before it became synonymous with tragedy. The films, tinged with the sepia hues of yesteryear, showed scenes of vibrant life as stark contrast to the grim tales spun by the newspapers. The footage revealed a family, perhaps the last to know happiness within these walls. Children played on the expansive lawn, their laughter almost audible through the silent flicker of the film. Elegant gatherings filled the rooms, with guests in fine attire, conversing and dancing under chandeliers that still hung in my dining room, albeit now dimly lit and seldom used. One reel in particular caught my attention. It was a birthday celebration in the grand parlor. Balloons adorned the walls, and a table was laden with an array of 1920s delicacies. The faces of the attendees were alight with joy, the atmosphere carefree and filled with music that I could only imagine. The scene was a poignant reminder of the house's former glory, of days filled with laughter rather than whispers of misfortune. This discovery was a visual time capsule, offering a glimpse of the house as a cherished family home, not just the backdrop of unsolved crimes. It provided a new lens through which to view my surroundings, reminding me that before the shadow of mystery, there had been light and life here. These reels became my window to a forgotten past, challenging the sinister narrative that had been constructed around my home. As I meticulously reviewed both the film reels and the newspaper clippings, an unsettling realization began to dawn on me. There were glaring discrepancies between the serene, joyful scenes captured on film and the grim narratives detailed in the press. The contrast was too stark to dismiss as mere coincidence or misreporting. For instance, one of the film reels showed a lively anniversary party, hosted in what was reported as the very room where a brutal crime supposedly took place. In the film, there was no sign of discord, no hint of the lurking dread described in the articles. Instead, the room buzzed with energy, filled with smiling guests, and echoing with the sounds of celebration. Further deepening the mystery, I noticed that the layout of some rooms in the film didn't match the descriptions given in the police reports. What was described as a confined, shadowy space in the articles appeared open and well lit in the footage, decorated with vibrant wallpapers and lively family portraits. These observations fueled a growing suspicion in my mind. Was it possible that the stories had been altered over the years? Or perhaps, had the newspaper sensationalized the events to captivate readers, thereby distorting the true history of my home? This realization pushed me to dig deeper, driven by a need to reconcile these conflicting accounts and uncover the real story hidden within the walls of my house. Amidst the deepening mystery of the house's past, odd occurrences began to subtly unsettle the normalcy of my daily life. Initially, these incidents were small and easily dismissed. A book I had left on the kitchen table would find its way to the study. Doors that I remembered closing would creak open without any prompt. At first, I attributed these peculiar events to my own absent-mindedness, a side effect of the stress and sleepless nights, fueled by my relentless research. However, as these events persisted, they grew harder to rationalize. One evening, I distinctly remembered setting down my glasses on the bedside table, only to find them in the morning on the bathroom sink. Another time, the attic door slammed shut just as I reached the top of the stairs, the windless silence around me offering no plausible explanation. Each incident chipped away at my skepticism, forcing me to consider that perhaps my focus on the house's history was manifesting in more than just a psychological toll. I tried to maintain a rational perspective, telling myself that the stress was playing tricks on my perception. Yet, the frequency and nature of these occurrences began to weave a thread of doubt into my thoughts, blurring the lines between reality and the eerie echoes of the house's storied past. As the days turned into weeks, I noticed a gradual change in Sarah, my wife. Previously vibrant and engaging, she began to retreat into a shell of silence that was uncharacteristic and alarming. Her smiles became less frequent, replaced by a distant contemplative stare that often seemed fixed on nothing at all. Conversations we once shared at dinner, filled with laughter and plans for the future, dwindled to monosyllabic responses and long, uncomfortable silences. Her behavior added an additional layer of tension to the already strained atmosphere of our home. I would find her lost in thought, staring at the walls or windows, as if she could see something I could not. Several nights, I woke to find her side of the bed empty, only to discover her in the attic or the study, poring over the old newspapers and film reels I had brought from the archives. Her secrecy about these nocturnal activities, her refusal to discuss what she was looking for or perhaps what she had found began to gnaw at my peace of mind. Each secretive smile, each whispered phone call she quickly ended when I entered the room, seemed to deepen the mystery surrounding our home. It was as if Sarah was following a thread of her own, one she was unwilling to share, and this secrecy fueled a growing paranoia within me, casting shadows of doubt over the very foundations of our relationship. One evening, unable to bear the weight of growing suspicion and silence, I confronted Sarah in our dimly lit living room. The tension between us had become palpable, like a thick fog that filled every corner of the room. "Sarah," I began, my voice steadier than I felt, "I've noticed you've been different lately. Is there something on your mind? Something about this house, perhaps?" Sarah looked up, her eyes reflecting a mix of relief and apprehension at my direct approach. She sighed deeply, as if unburdening herself of a heavy load. "David, I didn't know how to tell you," she started, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been doing my own research about the house. There's something unsettling about the energy here, and I needed to understand it for myself." Her confession took me by surprise, not least because she had chosen to keep it hidden from me. "What did you find?" I asked, my curiosity mingling with a hint of betrayal. She walked over to the desk, pulling out a stack of photocopies and notes she had taken. "It's not just the murders," she explained, spreading the papers out before us. "There are other, less-known incidents linked to this house: accidents, unexplained disappearances." The more I dug, the more I found patterns that disturbed me. Sarah's revelations added a new layer to the puzzle. Her actions, secretive as they had been, stemmed from a shared concern for our well-being and a mutual intrigue with the house's dark past. Understanding this, my feelings of paranoia began to give way to an alliance as we stood together, surrounded by the echoes of the century's mysteries, ready to uncover the truth, no matter how deep it lay. During a thorough search of the attic one chilly autumn afternoon, where the air held a whisper of the coming winter, Sarah and I made a startling discovery. Behind a false panel that I had overlooked despite my numerous searches, we found an old dust-covered film canister, its label faded but still legible. "Private 1912. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, we carefully set up the old projector I had restored as part of my archival work. The room grew dark, and the projector flickered to life, casting a beam of light through the dust motes dancing in the air. What unfolded on the makeshift screen was nothing short of astonishing. The film revealed a portion of the house that seemed unfamiliar, yet it was unmistakably the West Wing, which had been sealed off and forgotten. The footage showed a vibrant gathering, a stark contrast to the grim events documented in the newspapers. This was a celebration, possibly a wedding, with guests in Edwardian attire, their faces alight with joy and laughter. As the scenes progressed, the camera panned over to a side door that opened to a room that, according to my earlier explorations, should have led nowhere. Inside, the film captured a beautifully decorated nursery, the walls adorned with cheerful, hand-painted murals, now hidden behind layers of peeling wallpaper in the present day. This newfound reel not only added depth to the history of our home, but also challenged everything we thought we knew about it. It offered a glimpse into a joyous past that had been overshadowed by the darker narratives we had encountered. This discovery, hidden away for over a century, provided crucial pieces to the puzzle of our home's mysterious legacy. As Sarah and I watched the ancient film reel unfold, a narrative starkly different from the murderous tales emerged. The reel included a segment apparently shot for a documentary or investigative purpose, discussing the house's architectural features and highlighting several safety hazards that were common in the early 20th century, but overlooked at the time. The film featured a calm, informative voiceover, explaining incidents that had occurred in the house. It detailed how what were reported as murders were, in reality, a series of tragic accidents caused by faulty construction and substandard building materials. These revelations were supported by visual evidence of compromised structural elements like weak floorboards and unstable staircases, which led to fatal falls and injuries. Most shockingly, the reel showed interviews with contemporaries of the victims, who expressed skepticism about the sensational stories circulated in the newspapers. They suggested that these tales were exaggerated or even fabricated by the media and local authorities to cover up the real issue of negligence by the building contractors and the original homeowner, who might have cut corners during the construction. This alternative explanation stripped the house of its morbid mystique and reframed the tragedies as preventable accidents, common for that era's lax attitudes toward safety standards. It was a sobering reminder of how historical narratives can be shaped by the times and biases, leading to misconceptions that may echo for generations. This discovery shifted our perception of the house from a place of sinister happenings to a victim of its time, marred by misfortune and misunderstanding. As the last frames of the revealing film reel faded into darkness, I sat in reflective silence beside Sarah, contemplating the powerful illusion of fear. The stories and myths that had been constructed around our home were now shown to be just that, fabrications that, while rooted in truth, were distorted by time and human fear. It struck me profoundly how the human mind is adept at filling in the gaps of the unknown with the most dramatic possibilities. In the absence of complete information, our minds often default to creating narratives that explain and often exacerbate our deepest fears. This house, with its hidden rooms and silent echoes, had become a canvas for such tales, painted darkly with the brushes of rumor and speculation. This realization was both liberating and sobering. It served as a reminder of the need for diligence and skepticism in the face of incomplete stories. Our own fears and the stories told in the shadows they cast can transform misunderstandings into perceived malevolence. Reflecting on this, I understood that many of the monsters we confront are often not lurking in the dark corners of old houses, but within the dark corners of our own minds, where fear and half-truths create chilling specters of the unknown. In the wake of our discoveries, Sarah and I made a decisive choice regarding our future in the house. We resolved to restore it, not only to preserve its architectural beauty, but to honor the lives of those who had once filled its rooms with laughter and love, before it became shrouded in mystery and false tales of horror. Our plan was to peel back the layers of time-worn paint and wallpaper, to repair the neglected woodwork, and to reinforce the structure, making it a safe and welcoming home once again. We envisioned our efforts as a way to cleanse the narrative that had so long darkened its doors, replacing it with one of resilience and renewal. By choosing to live joyfully and securely in this house, we aimed to write a new chapter for it, one where the myths of malice were replaced by stories of restoration and hope. This act of preservation and personal investment in the house's future was our way of honoring the true spirit of those who had come before us, dispelling the lingering shadows with the light of truth and care. As I look back on our journey with this house, I'm struck by a profound realization about the nature of history. It isn't just a series of sensational events meant to thrill or horrify us, it's a tapestry woven from the real lives of real people, each thread imbued with complexities and nuanced realities. Our experience has taught me that history should be approached with both curiosity and care, recognizing that behind every seemingly dark corner, there's a story of human experience, waiting to be understood in its full context. This understanding has reshaped my view not only of our home, but of how I perceive the past in general. We must strive to see beyond the surface narratives that often capture public fascination. It is crucial to delve deeper, to uncover the mundane truths that are often overshadowed by more lurid tales. By doing so, we honor those who lived before us not as characters in a ghost story, but as individuals who navigated the complexities of life much like we do. Our project to restore the house has become more than a renovation. It's an act of reclaiming history, of bringing dignity to the stories embedded within these walls. It is my hope that by sharing our story, others may be inspired to look at historical truths with a more discerning and compassionate eye, seeking understanding rather than sensationalism. In the concluding stages of our journey with the house, I decided to encapsulate our experiences and discoveries into a broader narrative. I embarked on producing a documentary aimed at exploring not just the story of our home, but also the broader theme of urban myths and how they shape and reflect our collective perceptions. This project allowed me to channel everything we had unearthed into a format that could reach others, shedding light on how myths are formed and the tangible effects they can have on real estate, community psyche, and historical understanding. The documentary combined interviews, historical documents, clips from the film reels we discovered, and personal reflections to create a comprehensive picture. Throughout the documentary, I emphasized the transformation of our house from a reputedly haunted site to a restored historical home and paralleled this transformation with discussions on the importance of confronting and demystifying urban legends. By presenting this narrative, I aim to provoke thought on the resilience of human societies and the power of truth in the face of long-standing myths. The completion of this project marked a significant milestone for Sarah and me. It was not just about rehabilitating a structure, but about correcting misconceptions and contributing to a more nuanced understanding of how we interpret the spaces we inhabit. This documentary became my testament to the power of historical truth in dispelling fear and fostering a deeper connection to our roots. As I reflect on the transformative journey that Sarah and I embarked upon with this house, it becomes clear just how profound an impact it has had on us both personally and as a couple. The process of uncovering the true history of our home, challenging as it was, brought us closer together. We shared moments of discovery and faced unsettling truths, which strengthened our bond and deepened our understanding of each other. This experience also reshaped my own sense of reality. It underscored the potent influence that stories have on our perceptions. The myths and rumors that once shrouded our home in mystery had initially swayed us towards fear and suspicion. But as we